Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. Sorry that there was no episode yesterday, was not feeling well. Also, there is an important announcement. Following the worldwide tradition of taking some time off to recharge, we decided to take a short break till 1st of August. Meanwhile, those of you who haven't listened to our long talk episode on Ukrainians abroad are encouraged to use the break to catch up. Thank you all for your support. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 512 days, Ukraine stands strong against the forces of the Russian invasion. In his evening video address, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky reflected on several days of constant drone and missile attacks against Odessa and other cities of Ukrainian south by Russia. He informed that just in 4 days, Russians used almost 70 missiles of various types and almost 90 Shahed drones. In the latest attack on Mykolaiv, an elderly couple was killed and 18 people wounded. Of course, our warriors managed to shoot down some of the enemy missiles and drones, and I thank each of our defenders of the sky for this. But unfortunately, the capacity of Ukrainian air defense is not yet enough to protect the entire Ukrainian sky, said Zelensky. The president stressed that Ukraine is working with its partners as actively as possible to obtain additional air defense systems that can provide peace and security to Odessa and all other cities and communities of the country. The National Bank of Ukraine decided to withdraw Bank from the market and appealed to the Cabinet of Ministers with a request to nationalize the financial institution, which is one of the largest on Ukrainian market, reports Ekonomichna Pravda. The bank is owned by Russian oligarchs who are under Ukrainian sanctions via several intermediary companies. Owners take no part in the bank management since the start of the full-scale invasion. The president welcomed the National Bank's decision and called on the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine to immediately support its nationalization. Volodymyr Zelensky also reacted to the discussions about non-war-related budget expenditures. In the last weeks, Ukrainians on social media were actively discussing decisions of local and national authorities, in particular the Culture Ministry, to spend millions of hryvnia on films, reconstruction of museums, city decorations, which many considered unnecessary in times when Ukrainian army lacks ammunition and equipment. The president said that in times of war like this, the maximum state attention and therefore state resources should be spent on defense. He pointed out that funds for museums, cultural centers, symbols, TV series, which are important, should be found outside of the state budget. He called on the Prime Minister to implement this approach and also to replace Culture Minister Alexander Tkachenko. Later, Tkachenko informed that he submitted his resignation even before the president's address. We would really appreciate if you could rate us, ideally with 5 stars, in the apps where you are listening to this podcast. This way more people would learn about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine issued a statement in which it warns that all ships that will go to the Russia-controlled ports on the Black Sea from July 21st will be considered as carrying military cargo, reports Radio Liberty. Relevant navigational information for mariners has already been made public. The ministry warned that responsibility for all risks lies entirely with the Russian leadership. The fate of the cruiser Moskva proves that the defense forces of Ukraine have the necessary means to repel Russian aggression at sea, the statement reads. In 2022, Ukrainian forces managed to sink the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, cruiser Moskva. Earlier this week, Russia announced that it will consider all vessels, regardless of flag, bound for Ukrainian ports from midnight on July 20th as involved in a military conflict, after it decided to withdraw from the Black Sea Grain Initiative on July 18th. The US may transfer F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine by the end of this year, reports Ukrainska Pravda. According to the White House Strategic Communications Coordinator John Kirby, F-16s by themselves won't probably be able to change the situation on the battlefield. Kirby added that Ukraine now needs more artillery shells. He also confirmed information in the media that US cluster munitions are already used on the battlefield in Ukraine. Kirby noted that they are used effectively. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We are a commercial initiative of just 2 people and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better.
We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.